This is Trophy Gold, Crown of Salt, Part 1. Let's introduce ourselves. When I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you would like for folks watching the video to know about you. I'll start and say that my name is Jason. I use he, they. I am the publisher of Trophy Gold, which is the game we're going to be playing, though I am not the publisher of the module we're going to be playing, Crown of Salt. I am, however, the co-host of the Fear of a Black Dragon podcast, where we talk about modules like this, and that's why we're playing it now, so that I have some things to talk about on my show. Let's keep going around the table. Alex.
Hello, my name is Alex. I also use he, they pronouns. I also work alongside Jason here, and I particularly co host the Dark and Threshold podcast, which is not about OSR modules and trophy, but I do have a huge love of this vibe. So I'm just excited to be here and playing more trophy.
A lot more trophy lately on the show.
Yeah, oh, yes. Well, we did. That's true. Yeah. We did start doing trophy episodes. That's right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Fantastic. Let's go to Amanda.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda. My pronouns are she, her. I'm just kind of around in the TTRPG space doing whatever, mostly hyping. I played a lot of Trophy, but I haven't played Trophy with this specific mix of people, so I'm excited.
Fabulous. Thank you. Chaotic.
My name is Chaotic. I use he, they pronouns. I write for Sprigs and Kindlings, pretty much for all the issues. I also just keep an eye on like what's going on in the CFB space. Yeah, I've played Trophy with everyone but Jazzy before, so however, not with this particular group. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I think it's going to be great. Fabulous. And speaking of, finally, Jazzy.
Hi, Jazzy, she, her pronouns. Also just mainly here to in the TTRPG space to hype and play games. I haven't played a lot of Trophy Gold and only in like very short term, like one or two shots. So yeah, I'm very excited to explore this game a little bit more.
What a fantastic segue to our CATS for Trophy Gold. So, CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. I do this in order to establish some basic expectations for what we're going to be doing during this series for both players and for people watching the video if you're not familiar with Trophy or Trophy Gold. And so, let's start with concept. The concept of Trophy Gold, the game, is it's a spin-off of Trophy Dark. It uses some of the same core mechanics of Trophy Dark. Trophy Dark is a horror fantasy game that is a kind of a one-shot game. Trophy Gold is more of a traditional campaign-based fantasy adventure game that is meant, it uses some of the same materials, but it's expanded to be playable over multiple sessions. We like to say that Trophy Dark is play to lose. Trophy Gold is play to lose and play to win. And what that means is you are trying to keep your character alive. You are trying to advance your character. You're trying to there's a lot of strategy in this game. It's a really strategic game. You will be playing strategically to keep your character alive, and sometimes playing unhelpfully with the group to keep your character alive. But sometimes you're not going to be able to prevent being killed, in which case you switch to play to lose. And that just means once you realize that the writing is on the wall, give us the absolute best story you can for your character's demise. That is the deal. We like to say that Trophy Gold is about desperate treasure hunters going into the lost and forgotten places of the world in order to find treasure, in order to fund a particular drive they have. And the thing about these characters is they're not as doomed as Trophy Dark characters, but they're kind of doomed in a certain sense because they are almost certainly never going to get all the money they need to accomplish their ridiculous drive, but they're going to try, and they're always on the knife's edge of poverty, and so there's always a chance of them slipping off the wrong side of that knife and retiring to obscurity and destitution. So this is sort of the vibe of Trophy Gold, more on tone in a moment. But yeah, it's a story game with sort of OSR dungeon crawl trappings, and I think that's kind of the best way of understanding it. It's very collaborative, as you're going to see. This particular module, I'm not going to say too much about it. It's called Crown of Salt. It published for, I think it was published for a bespoke system, but also for Morkborg, and it was originally published in, I believe, Spanish, and it's now been translated into English, and we're doing that translation. That's all I'll say for now. Aim. Our aim for today is to make characters, introduce those characters, and then play a little bit. Then we'll have a debrief. The aim, generally speaking, is to tell a good story, and your characters have a particular aim of gathering treasure. You are always doing trophy gold right if your character is focused on getting treasure. That is your everything flows from getting treasure. Once you have treasure in hand, or once the looking for treasure, the acquiring of treasure leads to the story. So trust that. The tone. This is a dark game. It's a very dark module, as you might tell from my background, which is lifted from the module. It's grim. I even changed shirts for it. I was wearing a very colorful shirt earlier today. It's grim. It's dark. It's a little gnarly. It's very horror forward, so you can see why I like it. That is generally the vibe of Trophy Gold as well. Obviously, there's room for levity and humor, but we should always try to bring it back to that dark place. Also, don't be surprised if I put it back into that dark place. So just you should expect that. I have one little special note for this series that's worth paying attention to here, and it has to do with the tone of the game. And that is this. This series, and indeed how I intend to play Trophy hereafter, rituals are rituals, not spells. And this is really important, and I want to make sure everyone understands the distinction. A spell, I think, is something that you can fire off quickly with little preparation, and it's cast, right? That is what you might find in, say, Dungeons & Dragons. That is not what we're doing here. Rituals are rituals. They take time. You have to have some space to do it. You have to have, with a very few exceptions, there's a couple little exceptions in the rituals list, which are obviously meant to be used in the spur of the moment. But those are very, very rare. In general, rituals need time and space. And so if you don't have the time or space or the breathing room to do a ritual, you can't do a ritual. That's not to say you shouldn't try, but just know that I'm going to frequently say, no, the monsters are bearing down on you right now. You cannot do your ritual. It's too late. You should have done that earlier, right? So that's kind of the deal there. But you can still do rituals in combat if you've had time to prepare it, or if you have some distance from the combat. Maybe you withdraw from the combat to do your ritual. That's fine. So it's ritual. And also because it's a ritual, there should be a process. So I'm always going to ask you, what does your ritual look like? And what I mean by that is, what is the process by which your character does their ritual, right? What is the mechanics of it? What do we see them doing, like, to make it happen? It usually involves manipulating some object or drawing symbols or whatever it is. So that's a little tone note. Subject matter. This is it's what you would expect in a dark fantasy thing, I think, with horror elements. There's probably nothing going to be too wild there. We will have the X card and the open door policy in play. You all know how to do that in this context, so I'm not going to belabor that. We're going to do roaming lines and veils. Roaming lines and veils is basically if something comes up in the story and you anticipate something you're not going to want to like do subject matter wise, you can go ahead and line it or veil it then. A line being things that we are not going to have in the game at all, veil being things that we're okay with being in the game, but we prefer not to role play them. So we've all played together a lot, so I'm sure we all have a decent sense of each other's tolerances, but that said, those tools are available. I think that's all I've got for cats. Does anyone have any questions about cats? Okay, then we are going to pause the recording and go make characters, and so if you're watching the video, we'll see you in like half a second for you, but for us, it's going to take about 10 minutes. Okay, apart from grabbing some character avatars for the character keeper, we are ready to go. We're going to introduce characters in a pretty brief and limited way. So when I get to you, I just want to know your character's name, kind of what they look like, what their vibe is, like aesthetically, and as well their occupation and their background. I specifically do not want to know yet about their drive, their rituals, or their equipment. Keep all that stuff to yourself for now. For now, just who you are, how you appear, and what your occupation, background, and drive, or no, just your occupation and background, and any skills that you might have from it. With all that said, I'm going to go in the order of the sheet, which means I'm starting with Alex. Tell us about your character, Alex.
Yes, I am playing Cassian, who uses he/him pronouns. You said occupation and background, or just occupation?
Occupation, background, and the associated skills. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. So occupation is a poet, and his background is as a weary hermit. I mistyped that in. So it gives me the skills of persuasion, passion, rituals, and independence.
Independence. I don't think I've ever seen that skill. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's from the
Yeah.
cards.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. By the way, viewers, we use the trophy cards to make characters, which was a lot of fun. So, just keep in mind there are trophy cards if you're curious. Fabulous. What does Cassian look like?
Yeah, Cassian is, I think, fitting his background as a weary hermit. Is someone who like has embraced more cosmopolitan like living, like fashion, but it has like the visual of like, oh, someone who was outdoorsy, someone who probably was like a bit more rugged. It's basically that kind of like, without, not as handsome as Viggo Mortensen, but like the same kind of like Aragorn in Gondor kind of vibe, where it's like this dude's got like a rugged wilderness quality to him, but he's kind of groomed up a bit.
Well, and I would say that Viggo Mortensen is like unconventionally handsome as well, right? He has more of a distinctive look, I would say. So, fantastic. That gives me a great idea of what this person looks like. Let's keep going. Chaotic, tell us about your character.
All right, I will be playing Nevin, the fox, as it were. My background is a reckless moneylender, so me becoming a fox, or maybe I was always a fox, who knows? We haven't decided yet. However, I do have bright orange curly hair, sort of pretty light clothing and whatnot, pretty loose fitting. So if it gets caught on anything, it could easily rip and I can get away and whatnot. No need to keep me down on various things. It's fine. We don't need to worry about such things as money, perhaps. Well, other people don't. I do, though.
Very good. To be clear, for people watching the video, we don't know for sure that you're not necessarily a literal fox. Your job is fox, right?
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe
Who knows?
you're a Kunimitsu or something. Fabulous. Thank you. All right, let's keep going with Amanda.
I'm going to be playing Bazo. His pronouns are he, him, and occupation is leech. I'm going with a more messy medical type, I think, with that. That gives me skills in blood, deduction, and surgery. My background, and this was randomly chosen from the cards, is bloodthirsty butcher, which gives me a skill in cutting.
Oh, good. I love it.
I think Bazo he's kind of rough around the edges. Originally a butcher that was hired on to do medical things because of his butchery skill, as one does. So I think he's sort of an older guy, maybe like 50s, 60s, grayish hair, a little unkempt, not super worried about cleanliness because he's not that kind of surgeon.
They didn't have that concept, I don't think, in ye old medieval times. Like so. Fantastic. I love it. You're being a leech and a bloodthirsty butcher. You are cut them open and sew them back up. Is kind of the idea, which I love. Fantastic. And finally, let's go to Jazzy.
Yeah, I'll be playing Eliseo, he, they pronouns. My occupation is Ox, a very animal-themed group we've got going here. And my background is Waylaid Messenger. And I think the vibe is just tank. Like enemy, like in a video game, like that enemy tank PC, like NPC that you fucking hate fighting. Like it's just bulk, it's full like plate. I think there's like some sashes of color to like somewhat give the idea of a humanoid person, and just like a full It looks like it's bone, but it also definitely looks like it's not bone, like a skull, like an ox skull that is like as a helmet on my face. And it's like very hard if I'm like wearing it or if indeed there are like actual horns like underneath that are fitting very nicely.
Love the idea of walking
Um,
down a forested path in a video game and he just comes out and there's the
yeah.
enemy just like, oh fuck, it's this guy. God damn it. I
That
gotta
is
fight him again.
exactly the vibe. Just like, oh, this is gonna take like so long to whittle down the freaking damage. Like, I'm
Or those
already over
bosses that
it.
like kill the minions like with their
Yeah.
attacks, you know, like
Oh, why didn't I upgrade my
yeah.
damage?
Exactly.
I love it. Fantastic. All right. I'm excited about these characters. They sound amazing. We're going to learn more about them later on. But for now, we're going to take a 5-minute break. And when we come back, we're going to find these characters right in the middle of the fire. Oh! 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 You heard it first in the distance. Howling? No. Yes, but no. As it got closer, you realized that it was like the sound of a rusty sword being dragged across a whetstone. You put it out of mind for a time. And then they were upon you. You had just finished making camp when you realized your campfire light was not going as far as it ought. That's because it was being absorbed, blocked by creatures that descended upon you from the tree line. One has to imagine piles of rusted armor, rusted blades, powdered rust, gathered by the hands of some malevolent god and shaped into a vaguely wolf-shaped form. There were 6 of them. Bodies like rusted, made of rusted through cuirasses and greaves. Teeth like daggers. Claws like swords. Hulking piles of rust wolf creatures. 6 of them in total. And bearing down upon you. We're going to do combat to meet these characters. The first thing you need to know about this combat is the endurance of the monster. Their standard base endurance is 8 when they're on their own, but in a pack of this size, their endurance is 10. You don't have any time to make any special preparations. We're just going straight into combat here. If you wish to participate in the combat, you have to tell me how you are vulnerable in this moment, and then roll a weak point. If you wish to hang back and let your companions do all the hard work, you don't have to do that. You can just go hide like a coward. And so, whoever's participating in the combat, as long as you have a weapon, you have to have a weapon, of course, tell me how you're vulnerable and roll weak point.
Bazo is vulnerable because he doesn't require a lot of prep for camp. He'll just sleep on the ground. He doesn't really care. So he was kind of curled up next to the fire, about to doze off. And the weak point is 1.
1. Very good. Who else?
I think Elisio is vulnerable because as this is happening, I think I will sort of like throw myself in front of Bazo, or basically like I'm trying to tank way more than perhaps I can, because we were so unprepared.
I love it.
And my weak point is 5.
1 and a 5. Who else?
Nevin is going to be involved just because of just how many there are. And frankly, the weak point is just because of my weapon. It's dagger.
That's pretty paltry in this moment, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that number is a 6.
A fine weak point for a fine vulnerability. 1, 5, and 6. Cassian, are you in on this action?
I will not be participating in the combat, if only because I would like to be helping maneuver to manage things, to make a risk roll to help mitigate the endurance of this foe. And I see Cassian he has this like old like long like hunting spear strapped to his back. He's not using it as a weapon, however, as he's kind of like effectively, it's kind of like a little bit of like the tank thing, but it's more of like a distraction where he has like the spear out and he's using it to like, without damaging hunks of metal, poke and push and keep distance between the enemies, while also doing the kind of like I'm a like big presence thing, like making a show of himself, shouting and yelling because he's hoping to draw their attention and keep them at pulse length. Yeah.
They have to go around without you.
Okay.
And then in the second round, we'll see if that's helpful. But for this first round, with Bazo, Nevin, and Eliseo being jumped by these creatures, and Cassian scrambling to try to like come up with a plan to like to draw their attention so you all can make better strikes. We have 3 combat dice. I'm going to let Eliseo roll. We're looking for you're going to roll for combat. The way this works is you're going to roll 3 dice. It's 3 dark dice, I believe, or whatever. It doesn't really matter for combat. You roll 3 dice, and we're going to look at the 2 highest. And if the 2 highest equal 10, which is the endurance of this pack of rust wolves, then you defeat them. If any weak points, irrespective of whether you defeat them or not, are hit, that person takes a hit. So let's see what we get on these 3 dice. Roll a combat 3, please.
The highest is a 6 and a 5.
Nice.
Or 11.
Very good.
But that does mean that 2 weak points are hit, I believe. Mine included.
Well, there's a 1 also, because I think somebody you would all
get. All of us.
You would all get it. Yeah. There's a 6, 5, and 1.
I did it. The best roll.
There's the perfect roll in some ways. The 6 and the 5 are good to defeat it. Now, here's the thing. You all kind of luck out, because these things don't. Their battle tactic is not to like immediately hurt you. What they do is they try to clamp onto your arm. And that's what they all do. They kind of use their own tactics to like hem you in, and then one of them gets on your arm, and you can already feel what they're trying to do. If this combat was going any longer, there's a really good chance they would be scissoring off your arm. But perhaps with Cassian's help, you all managed to defeat them and get out of this situation. In fact, Cassian, why don't you kick off the narration? How do you respond to this? What's going on?
Yeah, I think Cassian's a bit delayed in reacting, where everyone like leaps into the fray. He has this moment of where he locks up and he like looks around, but then snaps into action where he frantically gets a count of them, pulls the spear forth, and just sweeping it along the ground here, slamming the spear against the ground, kind of not really quite like barking, but making these like, kind of like growling loud noises like you would see contending with a pack of wolves, and like slamming the pole of the spear against these things, trying to just make himself a nuisance as they're trying to get closer onto his companions.
Nevin, one of these things is locked onto your arm. What do you do?
I think just because like it's locked on to me, this is also kind of poor positioning because I do have a dagger. I think it probably locked onto the arm where I was holding it, but because I've trained myself to use my dagger in both hands. I just switch the hands and like I stab it in its head, trying to like get into its jaw to like get it to just let go. And it just unclamps and just like pain as it's just like trying to like bite at like the dagger.
I love it. Elicio, destroy some of these things.
Yeah, I think we saw them like maybe go for Bazo when you were still sort of scrambling or getting awake. And I think it's just like sort of out of the air, I basically put my own arm like in front of it and it bites down and the teeth just crack on the plate. Because like even though it's night, even though we were getting ready to sleep, I'm still like in that full plate at all times and the teeth just crack and I grab it by its neck. There's like a crunch of a windpipe as I just throw it out. And then I think hands out, I pick up this like giant twin-bladed axe. And there's just, I think we kind of see like, like the shadows of it, and it's just like fur and blood and howling and like those metal pieces just gore as I'm just like splattered with it.
Yeah, Alex has a good chat shout, which is it sounds like crushing a can, which is great. Yeah, I love that. Basso, what happens to you?
That gives me enough time to mostly get to my feet. I think I'm up on one knee and one leg, and I always sleep with my hand on my jagged sawtooth blade because I'm a normal person, and I'm able to get my arm up as one of these things lunges at me and grabs onto my forearm right into my studded gauntlets. It grabs it and starts to shake, and I take the jagged sawtooth blade and shove it up through its chin, up through the top of its head, and it's the sound of just screeching metal on metal.
Someone just give me the wrap up narration of how you either chase these things off or destroy the rest of them.
I think there's a moment where like one of them like lunges kind of like with like more of like a leap than the others, diving for perhaps Nevin, and Cassian kind of like comes in last minute and like slams the spear down into the ground, and like so it pins its like head up and at an angle, its jaw gnashing as Alicio probably shoulders like just driving through it, like crushing this thing in half. I think we actually see that like this like half severed body of this metal thing begins to just like scuffle away, trailing little bits of broken rust and metal, and I think they flee.
Fantastic. Two housekeeping things whenever you defeat monsters. First is gold. There might be something valuable left behind with these monstrosities. We learn that by rolling a gold roll. The gold roll is always equal to the endurance of the monster. I'll let Bazo roll. Bazo, this is going to be a gold 10. Let's see if you get any treasure from this.
This is the best gold roll I've ever done in my life.
It's a pretty good
we
one.
Have three
Three gold.
That's
So
incredible.
now's a good time to talk about gold. So each of your characters has a burden score. Your burden score depends on how much equipment you brought with you, essentially. And in order to, before you could sort of like leave the adventure or return back to whatever your home base is, more on that later, you must meet your burdens in the amount of treasure equal to gold. And here we use gold with a capital G, meaning it's a currency in the game. It's not like the literal number of gold pieces. It's just represents a generic sense of wealth and treasure. So that's one thing. So here's 3 gold that to get you all started on meeting your burdens, which is great. Now we have to define what these things are. These things don't just drop money. They have something valuable in their leavings that you can sell back home or wherever in order to get paid. So first of all, decide who's getting what in terms of like how much gold everyone's getting. But also, if you take a gold, you have to tell me what you scavenged from the creatures.
I'm going to take a gold because I was involved in the fight, unlike somebody who didn't get involved. And I think what I take is I find when I'm looking at, trying to clean off my blade, I realize that it's not just rust. There's also some sort of, it's almost like a microbe or bacteria that's growing in this rust, this orange rust. And I think I just sort of scoop a bunch of it into a container to bring back, because that's going to be very useful for chemists and scientists, alchemists.
I love it. So go ahead and add that to your found equipment and make a note that it's worth 1 gold because it can be used as an item or you can sell it for 1 gold. Who else is
I
taking money?
think Cassian, real quick, just to add a little narration here, would have observed this over Basso's shoulder and taken an interest. And as you begin to scrape it off, he pulls out just like an emptied leaded bottle from the sack and like offers it out to you for use in storing this sample if you so desire.
I give you a look, brief look, and use my own bottle.
For a moment, he just flashes a smile, slowly puts it back into his pouch.
We have 2 gold remaining. Who's taking one? Or both?
I would love one because I have quite a high number of
You
burdens.
do have a high burden score of, what is it, 5?
Yeah.
5, yeah. Well, you're 1/5 of the way there. What do you
There we
collect from the
go.
creatures? You can take more of that stuff that Basso took, or you can take something else.
I kind of love the idea that some of these teeth that broke are like still like lodged in sort of, like where the chain mails are overlapping. And the teeth, sort of the same principle, like they're an extremely good material to like make precision stool for. So basically like a material that I got.
I love it. Go ahead and note that in found equipment as well as its value. There's 1 gold left. Who's taking it?
I think probably it would be Cassian.
Oh yeah, you don't want it?
I-
Sure. Yeah, I think if it's
Mhm.
clear that Nevin
Yeah.
doesn't really have much of an interest, Cassian will. I'll take a gold. Fuck yeah. Once the others have like finished their pickings over, I think he kneels down next to one of like the remnants of them, prods at it a little bit, kind of peeling away like a layer of rusted metal into like more of like the central mass of this thing. And Jason, it's like metal all the way through, right?
Rust, but yeah.
Like rust, like like old corrosion. I think there's this this little clump of something that's not rust, kind of at its center, perhaps some sort of like animating some remnant of magic, who knows, but I can't say. It is this like stark white porous stone that was
I
at the
love it.
center of one of these things.
Fantastic. The second thing we must do is we have to start keeping a record of the creatures you encounter. So if you take a look at the character keeper, which is where we are managing all of our character stuff, there's a section called bestiary. It's the second from the last tab. Everyone needs to, or someone, I don't care who, has to note that this creature has a base endurance of 8, and we have to give it a name. You get to name the creature, and also make some notes of what's been harvested from the body. Anybody have any thoughts on what we could call these things?
Like I imagine, like just as a suggestion, these seem to be like dagger beasts.
Ooh, Dagger Beast is good. I was thinking like Rust Hound or Rust Wolf or something like that.
I feel like the rust is a big important part of it.
Mhm.
I like the word tarnished more than I like the word rust. Though.
Ooh,
Ooh. Tarnished
Tar-
Hound.
yeah,
Very good.
tarnished
Oh.
hound. Yeah.
Sounds cool.
So we have now christened the creatures Tarnished Hounds. Now they have an endurance of 8. Now the base endurance of any monster you encounter can be reduced by 1 if you know its weakness. We don't yet know the weakness of these things, but maybe if you talk to people in the community of wherever you're headed, maybe somebody can help you out with that to learn what their weakness is. Or you can do some research on your own. It's up to you. But for now, let's do some storytelling. We'll do some role play in a bit. Storytelling for now. crown of salt. There is a church in the depths of the salt plains, a forgotten temple consecrated to a benevolent and righteous God. This church was desecrated by an arrogant and ruthless king. The blood of the faithful dyed his steel red. The god of this temple shed his tears over the valley, transforming it into a wasteland of salt and misery. Before fading from the memory of men, the god cursed the defiler to become a hated and repulsive being that would poison and corrode everything he touched, imprisoning him with only his crown, a crown of salt, to remind him of all he had lost. People call this cursed, repulsive thing the Cantigaster. And everyone knows his story, including the four of you who are heading to this temple in this blasted, salt-coated valley. Flakes fall over the valley, even when there isn't a single cloud in the sky. Steps crunch against the crystalline crust. It's not snow. It is salt. Nested on the edges of the salt plains near Grift, like an old phoenix tired of being reborn, the town of Saltburg is repaired time and time again. Victim of the wear and tear of the salty and corrosive wind, its houses crumble, its people fall ill, its tools rust. But the town will never disappear, not as long as there are people desperate enough to seek opportunities in this white hell. People such as you. You're on your way to Saltberg. It's the next morning after last night's fun. You each have a drive. Not necessarily directly connected to these events, but something bigger. Something that pushes you to do this madness, to do this hard work, this dangerous work from which most people don't return, treasure hunting. Very high risk, but very high reward, theoretically. I want to know about your drives. I want you to reveal them to me now as we have this scene, or later as you wish. Doesn't matter to me. But I'm also going to give you each a short-term goal. If you're able to accomplish your short-term goal, then you get a very handsome reward equal to 5 gold, enough to satisfy most of your burdens and to put away some for the future, to help you reach that bigger goal, that bigger drive. Let's take our second break. We're going to come back in 5 minutes. Be ready to have the scene where we're just chatting on the way to Saltburg. It's early in the morning. You've just broken camp. You're trudging through salt-covered land. Salt falling almost constantly on you. Maybe you even instinctively, like a child, hold your tongue out to catch it like a flake of snow. But of course, it's salt, so your mileage may vary on the pleasantness of that. Let's have the scene. Roleplay.
Yeah, the boots of Cassian and this traveling band crunch thickly under the crystallized flex. Occasionally, Cassian, in his very thick woolen cloak that's thrown over his shoulders, he has to like curse under his breath to just slap and beat away at just the thick mounting salt that's catching to it. His face is a little dappled with sweat, and occasionally has to like wipe at his eyes as the salt mixes with the sweat and gets into his eyes and stings. And just despite all this, the poet is of a chipper mood, smiles occasionally, maybe whistles something soft, not too disturbing, he hopes, but is quiet otherwise and just keeps pace with the company.
So takes a long drink of his water canteen and then hands it over to gesture to see if Alicio wants any.
I think Eliseo, like you have to imagine this is like the most uncomfortable thing ever, but he's just like kind of going. And I think when he sees that you're offering it to him, they will kind of shake their head and nudge at Nevin, who had like stuck out, or at least Chaotic was miming sticking out a tongue and tasting it. So I imagine that's what Nevin did. And I think there's like almost like you can't really read expressions because it's under the skull, but you feel like in that little nutshell, like, this is necessary. Please hurry.
I
I
think
think, go ahead.
Bazos just sort of gives Nevin a little look and almost sighs a little and passes the water canteen over to Nevin.
It's very gross. Oh God, it does not taste like any of the salted meats I have tasted. It's like there. I think there's a little bit of dirt in the air, and I take a swig of water.
I would recommend not eating it.
For the same reasons as I suggest folks don't drink the rain.
What on earth accent are you using, Alex?
You'll find out, I suppose.
I'm here for it. Let's talk about goals for a moment. I'll spring these on you periodically as the scene goes on. Looking at this list of people here, who among you would you say is most likely to be a famous monster hunter, or a hunter of monsters, famous or otherwise?
Probably Alicia.
I'm guessing Alicia.
I was gonna say it sounds like it's me, but it would be really funny if it wasn't me.
I was like, Alicia's
You
number
all
one,
just
number two
assume
is
this.
Basso, yeah.
Like I've never said this. Everybody just assumes that it's true.
I assume the skull is from a beast you've claimed before.
Maybe it's my mother's. You don't know.
Fair enough. I would like to suggest, Eliseo, that you are hunting the Cantagaster directly. The others maybe are just here to gather treasure, but you're here to kill the Cantagaster. Defeating the Cantagaster and claiming his head as a trophy would bring you fame and respect throughout the dying lands. However, you've heard that Fergus Ferguson, the famous monster hunter, is already on the job. You'll have to be quick if you want to hunt the beast before he does and claim the rewards of such a feat. If you do, in game terms, you get 5 gold. A lot of gold. Big payment. Keep the scene going.
I do think that at one point, Cassian, as we're trudging, does like shoulder up alongside Alicio a little bit, and occasionally just like glances over at the big man, just looks him up and down, and eventually does like, say, looking at the full head to toe armor he's covered in, says, "Well, at least one of us won't be scrubbing salt out of their ass, will they?"
You think this blocks it from there?
Well, clearly I had hope for you still, but, well, nonetheless. Are we doing all right back there? Has anyone needed a further spot of food, perhaps? I'd hoped that this morning's breakfast affair had been a little bit more sturdying, given the harsh climbs that we're about to endure.
Let me know
It
if you
might
need
be
to be
worth
carried.
your.
That's all. That's all he says.
It might be
Cassian.
worth saving
Okay.
your energy, Cassian.
Indeed, indeed. Have to be ready for the task ahead now, don't we?
You have one particular task, Cassian,
I do.
that you need to be ready for.
Sure.
Some more storytelling. That night, the infamous night in question, you had a few too many ales. You ended up, without knowing how, indebted to the Black Arrows, a dangerous criminal organization. If you don't want to find out the reasons of their infamy, you had better find a very particular treasure they're interested in. A treasure connected to the Cantagaster. What is it?
Ooh, I think it's its crown of salt.
Oh, they want the crown of salt.
The Cantagaster's crown, yeah.
You get a bonus. If you bring them the crown, well, you get your life. You won't have the Black Arrows to deal with anymore. And that's great. But if you keep the crown and sell it to someone else, you get 6 gold. So it's up to you. If you get your hands on the crown, what you do with it.
Duly noted. Something to mull on.
Mm-hmm. Think on it very hard. You're all kind of walking in the trudging to Saltburg, your next port of call in this journey. When you hear from off the side of the road, "Liar! Liar!" Nevin, what do you do?
It's coming from off the side of the road, probably in a ditch.
No, in a tree.
In a tree. Oh, a bird.
A tree stripped of leaves, caked in salt, like all the trees around
Yeah.
here.
But that doesn't stop birds from flying into the area, though.
Does not indeed. And not just any bird in this case. An old crow sitting in the tree by itself. It occasionally opens its beak. "Liar! Liar!" What do you do?
I think I am just looking at it. Oh. Don't like those types of birds. Teach all sorts of words. It's funny when it's swears and whatnot, but other times it just becomes annoying when things are like this. And like Nevin is just monologuing right at this point.
What's everyone else doing?
Birds are omens. They bring news, often bad.
This is someone's pet.
How can you be so sure?
Typically, wild crows don't repeat words, but pets do. Sometimes you
Any,
get a
any
farmhand.
smart enough bird can repeat a word that it's heard many, many times.
And
Mhm.
crows
Liar!
are quite intelligent creatures. I've known many a crow to utter a phrase here and there that they've heard me utter back in my more lonesome days.
Liar! Liar!
This crow seems to have the opinion that one of us is a liar, or more likely, that there is a liar within the relatively recent past.
I don't think we can gain much unless any of you would care to surprise me with the ability to commune with the Corvids, or perhaps we'd be better suited asking after this crow's familiarity with the good people of Saltberg.
Basso, do you really think this is a omen?
No, I just don't like Cassian. And I want him to be afraid of this bird.
Indeed. Let's talk about another goal. Well, Bazo. Despite the inhospitable nature of the Salt Plains, Griff's Salt Plains is the full title, it is known that life forms adapted to the corrosive environment exist. This is of particular interest to a group of herb masters from Galgenbeck, who are willing to pay a fine sum of money for a report on the local ecosystem, and even more money for samples of said ecosystem. Well, you're already on your way with your rust, what do we call them? Tarnished hound samples. Here's the way this is going to go. You get 1 gold for appropriate samples like the Tarnished Hound sample, as noted. If you manage to collect 6 ecosystem samples by the end of the journey, you get an impressive payout of 8 gold. But you must hold all the samples until the adventure is entirely over, and you have to get back to Galgenbeck. But if you do, you get a nice little payout. So it means the gold you collect in samples is not usable right away for burdens. It has to be collected separately, right? Unless you use it for that, in which case it's not usable for Galgenbeck. So just keep that in mind.
In that case, I would like to do a ritual.
What is that ritual?
I would like to use switch, touch to swap bodies with another, and I want to swap my body with this bird.
Oh, intriguing. In hopes of doing what?
I'm going to fly the bird into my sack.
Very good. I love it. It's really good. This is a good opportunity to learn how to do the risk roll for folks who don't know. So risk rolls, my habit in the past has been to do the risk roll, to guide it, but it's really up to you to guide it. You have to, but kind of ask the group for what could go wrong. And then once you've heard from us, you get to tell us how you're getting your first light die, and then you can ask for devil's bargains if you wish, and so forth. So how do you want to approach this?
I think when I do this ritual, I think it involves don't want it to be anything. Just trying to think of something that I think it's a time frame thing. I think I cannot switch forever. I think I can only switch temporarily for, let's say 30 seconds. That seems like a short enough time to have it be stressful and long enough to get at least one little thing done.
I like that. Yeah. What's the process?
I think I have tattoos of different symbols, almost like runes on my skin. And I have to touch them in a certain order while whispering a secret prayer.
Do you have the text of the risk roll in front of you?
I do not, but I'm sure I can. Do you want me to read out the text of the risk roll?
Yes, please do.
It's on this somewhere, I think.
I think it's in the character keeper somewhere.
I thought it was too.
Maybe I am wrong about that, though.
I think it's one of the Trophy Dark character keeper.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
it's
is.
not on the it's
Okay,
not on the
that's
gold one.
okay.
Well, that's
Oh, it
annoying.
is. It's just a hidden tab, but I think it's
So-
outdated.
What, for the table, what do you think could go wrong here? With
Oh, I
my-
think honestly, the fact that it's like in like swapping bodies with this crow, like, well, the crow will then be in your body,
Mhm.
and this fucked up crow might do something like in your body. Like we might suddenly lash out violently. Who knows?
Yeah, it's going to try to take off. It's be scared, try to fly away, but it's in a human body. Like that's going to be a little bit of a disaster.
Alternatively,
I
like
think you're
maybe-
stuck.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
alternatively, maybe it's just that it's just you just see some real fucked up shit with this crow's through this crow's eyes.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I think when you switch and go back, you take something, like you could take something with you. Like there's, like a feral kind of part that just by touching this other mind, by switching, like you can't just do that and not have any consequences, right? Like there's gonna be something.
Okay. So those are some things that go wrong. I'm gonna look for a skill, or a background thing, or
Or
an
equipment.
item
Mm.
that will be useful for my role. I think in this case, it is actually the small steel mirror that I keep with me. I shuffle it out so that it is highly visible, and I kind of throw it down into the salt on the ground so that when I am the bird, I can look into it and remember, okay, this is not what I look like. When I switch back, it'll be okay.
I love
You're
it.
fine.
Yeah, that's great.
So I get 1 light die for having an item that I can use for this. I would love to get a devil's bargain for a 2nd light die if anyone has one for me. That's a no matter what
Yeah,
I
think
roll,
no.
this thing will happen.
I think no matter what, like a big ass fucking cloud of crows are gonna descend on the area.
I
matter-
Oh, go ahead. Got it.
No matter what, you'll realize that the crow isn't actually a normal crow.
I'm just saying, no matter what, you sprout feathers in an inconvenient place.
Oh,
Yeah, and I think based on like what could go wrong, I think no matter what, you take some part of its mind, of its feral or magical or whatever nature with you when you switch back.
What do you think?
I think I'm gonna take taking a part of the bird back with me because that sounds like delicious roleplay fodder.
I love it. I know I can go with that too, so that's great.
Fabulous.
You have to do dark die for the risk roll, so for the
Yep.
ritual, let's have it.
So that is 2 light, 1 dark. I'm gonna do my roll. I rolled a 5 dark. Dang.
Would Basso be amenable to some aid? And I know you hate me, but I'd be curious.
Holding the bag open.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because if open to it, because Cassian actually does seem to have a bit of experience in ritual craft and would probably be more than willing to assist you in this endeavor, whether it be holding the bag open or maybe even adding his own experience to guiding the ritual along its path.
Okay. In the interest of showing how the aid thing works or how the help roll works, I think as I'm reaching up to touch, you see what I am doing. You are familiar enough with rituals to know that I am performing a ritual and I'm reaching up to touch the bird. So I think you kind of figure out what I'm trying to do without me directly asking.
Yeah, and I think the way that I'm kind of exposed to like, danger in the situation is my immediate proximity to you, because I'm pretty close. So if anything goes wrong here, like whether it's the crow in your body or something else that happens, I'm right there shoulder to shoulder with you. Maybe I'll even hold the mirror or even hold the bag open. I don't know.
Let's go ahead and roll a help roll. That's a light die, I believe, right?
Yes, sir. Well, it's a 2.
So it was not helpful. Or at least not mechanically helpful. Maybe it's interesting to look at. Had you, just so people know, had Alex rolled a 5, which matches the dark die in Amanda's roll. Alex's ruin would have gone up. So, but the light die gets added to the total result. In this case, it's not higher than the 5 that we got. I have to give you a complication here. Actually, per the rule, Bazo, you can tell me the complication and I'll narrate what the scene looks like, or I can tell you the complication and you narrate what the scene looks like.
I'll let you tell the complication.
The complication is related to the Devil's Bargain. The part of the crow that you take back with you is this elemental, primal feeling, anger and sadness that your owner, your master, or your companion, your human companion, is dead.
Oh, that's so sad. I love it.
So take that as a condition. My human is dead. But
I also, because I rolled 5 dark, my ruin goes up to 4.
Indeed it does. Well, that's probably connected to that, right? I mean, yeah. You're just like
Very
kind of
distressing.
going crazy, basically. Do give us a scene.
I think I do reach up and I just gently tap the bird. For some reason it doesn't fly away. It must be it's so socialized to be around people, I suppose. And it takes not even a split second. And from my point of view, I'm seeing out of this bird's eyes. I see my party down on the salted ground below me. I'm up in this tree. The person who is me collapses to the ground, not expecting the change in the center of gravity or the change of location or any of this. And I don't really know how to fly. So I don't jump down from the tree so much as gracefully fall while flapping a bit, and walk my way into this sack that I have, or the sack that is laid out for me. I'm the bird right now, and just plop myself down, looking down at the mirror that's on the ground in front of me, and I see my bird face, but my eyes are different. I do not have bird eyes. I have human eyes in a bird body, and it's very disconcerting. And I think in that moment, that's when the switch back happens. I'm back in my body. I'm lying in the salt. I quickly do up the sack and stand up. But I feel a weight on my shoulders, a weight in my heart, in my chest, of this feeling of grief that I don't know how to explain.
I love it. So good. Thank you.
I really like the visual of like when you come back to on your back, like Cassie's like kneeling over you, like looking over you, being like, Basso. And then you kind of like push over past him to sit up. Well, that seems you were successful. Will it be ornery in there?
Add the bird to your found equipment. The crow. Nevin, we owe you your own little task here.
Mm-hmm.
Nevin, tell us about your actual drive, your big drive.
Oh, it is to retire in the comfort of the Rose District of Amberette.
The Rose District of Amberette.
Yes.
Lavish, luxurious, beautiful. Yes. Couldn't be more different from Griff's Salt Hell or whatever the fuck it's called. And this is great. I love it.
Yeah. Right. Those who live there do not need to worry about the worries and troubles outside of the Rose District, because any reputation that they may have earned outside of it just seems to go away there. And well, that's
interesting. Let's take a look here. King Fatmu the Ninth has agreed to pardon you from all your crimes, Nevin. King Fatmu the Ninth, the current monarch of Ambaret, has agreed to pardon you of your crimes, falsely accused or not. All you have to do is find the thief who humiliated King Fatmu. Unless you were that person, and then you have to find someone to take the fall. But in any case, you're going to find someone. The last known information about this individual, you've told us, is that they plan to venture into the rifts of the Salt Plains to pursue the legend of the Cantagaster. If you are able to secure this person, King Fatmu will be so happy. He will not only pardon you of your crimes, but he will give you money to help you fuel your lifestyle, your preferred lifestyle in the Rose District, equal to 5 gold. Does anyone have any questions about their individual goals? A head, a crown, some samples, and a thief. Those are what we're after. I'll spell out Fatmu for you too.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Saltburg. Is everybody done with the travel scene? Anybody else have anything else they want to do?
I do have a little bit of follow-up with Basso.
We can do it now if you want.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
you caught the bird, Basso. What do you want it for?
Studying. To learn from.
It's a bird.
Liar! Liar!
Well, to tell you the truth, there's a great deal of information that can be gleaned from all sorts of flora and fauna. I don't have the eyes for it myself, but it is a valuable commodity to those that deal in such things.
I could find you probably a decent enough book on crows when we get back, Basso, but do we really need that particular crow that keeps on saying liar?
Does that bother you?
It's a noisy thing. At least I know like when to shut up about things. The crow doesn't.
Next
Elisio
time
makes
we-
a noise that very much none of you know when to shut up. But like doesn't say it, but there's like just like this little like
When we stop, I will find a way to keep his mouth closed. Is that amenable to you?
Fair enough. It's your problem, I guess.
Fantastic. Saltburg. You arrive in Saltburg an hour or so later. It's still early in the afternoon by the time you get there. In its origins, Saltburg was a refuge for workers risking their lives in salt mining, selling it at good prices across the dying lands. However, due to the influx of mercenaries and all kinds of scum attracted by the legend, Saltburg began to grow to accommodate their needs and exploit their recklessness. Artisans and merchants settled into the town, drawn by the shine of silver from those who invested everything they had in a journey into the depths of the rifts of the White Wasteland. A journey from which very few come back alive. And yet, here you are in Saltburg. There's not much to it, if I'm being honest. I'm going to clip a picture of it for now if somebody wants to create a Google board with all this stuff, you can certainly do that. The little map there has some numbered spots relevant to what goes on in Saltburg, but you don't have to worry about that for now. There's not much to see. I'd say it's probably less than 12 structures in total. There appears to be the central sort of like inn type structure. As you first enter the town, there are a couple of shops, a few little people scratching out their living. You have 3 set goals in the town of Saltburg, all of which must be met before we can move on in the adventure. The first set goal is gather some rumors. Easy enough. The second set goal, see what wares are for sale. Easy enough. The third set goal, hire or don't hire the mercenaries. Now, set goals are often out of character information. This mercenaries one is a good example. You all don't know about mercenaries as characters, but your players do, or you as players do. Set goals can be achieved just through the roleplay. Alternatively, there's a currency you'll be collecting called hunt tokens. You don't have any yet, but you'll be getting them. You can always cash in 3 hunt tokens to satisfy a set goal. Now, these set goals aren't particularly dangerous or hard, so I wouldn't do that, but it's an option. In the future, when you're in the deeps of the temple or these salt-blasted lands, you might have set goals that are more dangerous and hard or valuable, and you want to go ahead and spend hunt tokens to accomplish them. You can also spend your hunt tokens 1 for 1 to get treasure. A reminder that treasure is what you need in order to meet your burdens. And you can spend hunt tokens collectively in 3s to accomplish anything in the game, as long as you can convince me of it. So if your character had gotten their arm severed, for example, by the Tarnished Hounds, you might spend 3 hunt tokens to somehow get the arm grafted back on, right? That kind of thing. And so you've all arrived in Saltburg. I'll give you the lay of the land. The tavern is called the Jug and the Crown. The 2 shops, they're labeled 3 and 4 on the little map there, are called, one is called the Best Defense, the other is called the Good Offense. Straightforward. You also have a few other little things here. I think that's what I'm going to tell you about for now. You can go pop around to the other things as you wish, or learn about them. Oh, there's another shop, an equipment store called Safe and Sagacious.
Cassian, for the record, will be immediately drawn to the store just for its incredibly florid use of the language. It's a wonderful name. You won't
Safe and
shop there.
Sagacious, or the
Yeah,
Good
safe-
Offense, or
no,
the Good
I
Defense?
mean, all of it is pretty good, but like sagacious is a fantastic word.
Fantastic word.
He loves it. But I do think Cassian's first instinct with any arrival in a town is to find the inn, the pub, the local watering hole. But he is sort of, just to kind of paint the scene here in a little bit, paint the overall behavior, follows like Eliseo and Basso, kind of. It's like whatever they end up doing, he sort of follows in their treads.
Well, Basso, what are you doing?
I'm making sure I think I also am going to go to the inn or like the tavern. It's because it's so salty here, staying hydrated is very important.
Eliseo, what are you doing?
Does this town have like I'm like imagining like a board with like, because they're kind of exploiting having like these quests and these legends. So I'm imagining they're like a town board with like information or like where to basically like like your Witcher contract board.
Quest board here.
Yeah, I
Salt
think
Temple,
like that.
Castigar Temple here. Yeah. Or what's it?
Yeah, or like like oh hey, I'm looking someone to kill 5 tarnished hounds for me. I'll pay you.
Get your
Like
get bronze, silver, or gold badge, right? Yeah, that's I
On my
like it.
fetch,
It's really
on
good,
a fetch
actually.
quest.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Do give me a hunt roll. Let's do the hunt roll. So the hunt roll is very straightforward. You get to roll 1 light die just because you're asking a question or doing it. You get a second light die if you have a piece of equipment or a skill that would help you in your search.
I have persistence.
Asking. Okay, good.
If
Like,
it's not hard, if it's like not easy to find, I'm just like, no, there's gonna be a freaking board. I'm telling you.
Like,
like it.
caked under salt or something, and you're just
Yeah. No, it's great. I love it. Go ahead and roll a 2 light die hunt roll.
Okay. A 5 is the highest.
Fantastic. Now here's the way the hunt roll works. The hunt roll, all that adjudicates is whether you run into trouble and or get a hunt token. What you learn, the number doesn't matter. I tell you whatever I want to tell you. But because you got a 5, you get a hunt token and you encounter something terrible. Go ahead and note your token on the character keeper. It can be spent in the future for a treasure that your character finds, or you can save it up to accomplish a big goal in the game. As you're looking around, you're like asking people. The people in this town are real. You have to imagine a group of people who've chosen to live in this fucking salt waste, literal salt waste with salt all over the fucking place. Water hard to come by. They all drink beer as a result. Their skin is dried to hell. They all look 20 years older than they are. This is a hard scrapple place. And they basically get by on grift because they expect people like you to come through trying to hunt legendary monsters that may or may not exist in temples that may or may not exist. I'm curious how that's going. How are you getting people to open up, if at all?
Yeah, I think there is an aspect of just even though like they're quite used to like scary people, there's still like this fucking like unit of a person with the horns and everything. So I think a few people are kind of, but I think they're sort of like pointing in directions just to get me away, like not necessarily, like a useful one. Just like, yeah, it's totally over there, and then they just kind of book it, and I'm like not in a condition to like physically chase after them. Which like I think every time you see Elysia, kind of have like this, God damn it, but continues. But yeah, I think it's a slow progress, and I'm getting like there's just like this tension to the body language, but I don't actually speak with people a lot. There seems to be a vibe where when Eliseo asks something once or twice and is not met with an answer, he not respects it, but he's just like, okay, you don't want to talk to me. There's like no active intimidation going on. He's basically just like, if you do not share, then you do not share, and I'll find it out myself.
I regret to inform you there's no job board in the village. However, you do encounter something terrible. You can interpret it terribly if you wish. Someone has scrawled on the sides of one of the huts not scrawled, they've painted in very big letters, "Beware the salt worm." Nevin, what are you doing right now as you get into Salberg?
Well, since Eliseo and the rest of my crew has decided to split up, cover more ground that way, I think, again, Eliseo is doing a fine job of introducing himself to the locals. However, what the date? Sagacious? Like what sort of thing is that? That's an odd word. Me as a player does not know what that word means. So I think I will go ahead with that direction.
You go into Safe and Sagacious. It appears to be an equipment store. The woman, the presumed owner, is an elderly woman behind the counter. The first thing you'll notice, without even like really looking too closely, is everything is twice the amount of money you would expect to spend on such a thing. The prices.
Because, like, we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, you have to pay for shipping.
It's good of you to give them the benefit of the doubt. But the old woman says, "Hello. That red hair sure stands out."
As much as these prices do stand out, hard to come by items here, or is it just my lot that typically travel in?
Prices is what they is.
Mm.
The market will bear what the market will bear.
Of course. And you gotta do anything to attract the attention, including having a very interesting name, Sagacious.
Aye,
Mhm.
'tis. Do you not know what sagacious means?
I will admit, it does escape my meaning, but however, I do consider myself fairly well read to compare to my compatriots.
Well, I'd
Not
be happy
ever,
to
but
tell you what it means. For a price, of course.
I am not that curious.
All right, then. You shall always have to live in curiosity and wonder when you're laying in your bedroll at night,
Mm.
trying to distract yourself from the baying of the rust wolves.
Yes,
When you least
those.
expect it, it shall pop into your head. What does sagacious mean? If only I had taken Amalia up on her very, very generous offer. But alas, ye shall live in darkness. Your mind occluded by the veil of ignorance. Perhaps you can figure out what occluded means from the context of which I've said.
Yes, yes. It's one of the great mysteries of the universe. To not know word means. I, I, I suppose I am blessed enough to know that how to read compared to other people I've met in my travels. But just a general question, something I would actually pay money for. But have you seen a particular individual like myself? I know I have this red hair that's very distinct, but there was another individual that perhaps passed through town that has similar striking color.
Make the hunt roll.
Mhm.
You get one die just because. You get another die for equipment or a skill.
I think this is probably ambition. Just
Honestly,
because.
your red hair too. I would say that
Yeah.
like just the detail of your red hair is probably enough
Mhm.
to get the second die.
Okay. Fuck, that's a 3.
She crosses her arms. I might know something about someone who's come through here with flaming red hair. Regrettably, that information is very valuable. Very valuable indeed. And not just to you. There are others, I'm sure, who'd want to know about such a person.
Yes.
I can't
you-
just be willy-nilly giving away valuable information to people, even for a modest price. No, no, no. This will require something. Perhaps I'm in a mood to invoke flexible pricing. How badly do you want to know this?
Enough that I will teach you forbidden secrets about the world.
We'll come back to the scene in a moment. Sounds like Bazo and Cassian are going into our pub, which is called, I've already forgotten the name, The Jug and the Crown. The stench of sweat and salt mingles with that of alcohol and roasted chicken. It clings to the throat. Several individuals with only their cracked lips in common spend their savings on what could be their last meal. This is a place of mercenaries and scum, so it's perfect, I'd say. Let's paint the scene, everyone. What do Bazo and Cassian see that indicates this is a place for mercenaries and scum?
I think there's blood stains on the floor, like soaked into the wooden boards, but very clearly, like this blood was spilled and then not cleaned up and walked over for days, weeks before it never really got cleaned up. They just kind of trudged through it. All the people. They don't really care about cleaning up the blood spilled.
Everyone is armed to the teeth.
I think just showing a general history of the mercenaries coming through here, like in like various dark corners of like the of this tavern is like the names of people carved in like the wood and whatnot. It's on the table legs, it's underneath the tables, it's on the tables, it's in the walls, it's in the chairs, it's everywhere. Like it's hard to find a spot where there hasn't been a name carved.
Um, I think there are like wanted posters, but they are like not as in like they're very clearly like kind of like not framed, but maybe like with salt they have made like little frames and they're like very proudly, like basically an extension of the, I was here, where they're just like kind of bragging with how much money they're worth.
As you both step into the Jug and the Crown, you see all this. There are 4 other people apart from the person behind the bar. There are 4 patrons. At a glance, you see a man with bright red hair and a beard. Very tough, stout-looking man. You see another man whose what was obviously a once beautiful face has been burned by acid. There's a woman, stout, wielding a Zweihander. And at the bar, nursing a drink, is a reptilian creature, a humanoid with the head of a lizard or draconic type head. Not super common in these lands, but not unheard of. The red-headed fellow sees you both come in, and the other 3, they all kind of like get up from where they're sitting and they join him to kind of face you. They seem like they're all together. And this red-headed fellow says, "Would you perhaps be here looking for someone to hire?" I and my companions are monster hunters of some renown. Let me shake your hands, new friends. My name is Fergus Ferguson. I am so pleased to meet you. And with that, let's go to stars and wishes. Stars are things you enjoyed about the session. Wishes are things you hope to see next time. Whoever wants to go first, please do.
Yeah, started Jason Mouth Noises Cordova for the usual affair of delightful sounds. At the very start there, the rusty kind of screech that the tarnished hounds made was very creepy. Loved that. Also loved the crow noise. Love a good like fucked up crow speech. So I have a you're like the third GM of mine in the last like 3 years who's just regularly busted out like a crow. And of course the staple weird little mouth click sounds you like to have certain old characters do. It's all very evocative and fun. Like genuinely, like it's there's like an extra like creep factor that comes with it. That's really like it's really good. Like a little touchstone to go off with these characters makes them memorable. I love all these treasure hunters. This module seems like it's really fun. I love starting right in the like right in the frying pan with the combat. That was great. Nevin, love that you're just monologuing, just remarking on like the crow. That was great. I Jazzy, getting you to watch you play the strong silent type, I'm really excited about just because that's kind of not what I'm accustomed to. No, so just like overall, I'm just excited to be kicking off some Trophy Gold. I love this game. I love this table, and I'm very excited to have Jazzy be joining us for this as well because I don't know, we haven't gotten to play Trophy Gold before, so yeah, this is gonna be great. My wishes are yeah, I mean, like one of my favorite things about the system is kind of like getting to do all these like fun hunt rolls and like pry around in like the dungeon crawly kind of sense and with this like storytelling heartbeat to it. So I'm really looking forward to like really like digging in the roots of like talking about like adventuring in location. Kind of has that we in the Patreon coffee chat this morning, we're talking a little bit about in like at least in Brindlewood games of like you've searched the room pretty thoroughly, but I'm also looking forward to like the trophy gold dungeon exploration sense of like I want to search the room, I want to pry into like all the little nooks and crannies and let the hunt roll lead me into danger. So I'm just looking forward to all those little exploratory moments.
Yeah, I this group is delightful. I'm having a lot of fun. Star to the person who wrote this, because that intro was solid. That
It's
was a
really good. Yeah,
intro.
yeah.
I'm fully hooked, fully in on board. This is really, really cool. Um, Star to chaotic. Nevin is such a chaos character. I could already tell. I know we mentioned in chat that Nevin is more chaotic, or at least it all the things that Baza was annoyed with Cassian. It's Nevin has those, you know, particular character things. But I just like getting on Alex's case, so I'm gonna let Nevin be, this wonderful tricky fox character, and I'm gonna get on Cassian's case. Alex, Cassian, gosh, I I just want you to stop whistling. You didn't whistle at all, but the idea that walking around and this guy is just whistling while we're trudging through this hellscape. Star for that because I hate it. Really, really, really fun. Um, Jazzy, as always, it's always a delight to watch you roleplay any kind of character, and and this is the second time we got to play together, so I'm really excited about that. I am fully on board with Alicia being the strong, silent, like Elden Ring villain. Uh, I'm excited to see what kind of emotional drama you're going to pull out of this because I know you will. Um, I'm looking for, I guess my wish is to figure out what my drive means to me. My drive is the higher Tamer of the Fleshcrafter to transform you. I think I have an idea, but I think I got to think about it a bit and see what happens. Yeah,
Yeah, we've only
I'm excited.
revealed one drive so far in play, so that's one of my wishes too, is to see the rest of the drives or reveal them. Yeah.
Oops, I revealed mine in Stars and Wishes.
Oops.
Okay, that's fine too. Yeah, I had a great time. I star for yeah, for if the author of the module is watching, Star for the Module is really great. Love it, and I'm excited to take everybody into it more deeply. The introduction is great. It doesn't actually start with that Tarnished Hound fight. I threw that in there just because I like to start in medias res. But the intro is really really fun. The Saltburg intro, or the sort of Kentagaster and then Saltburg intros are a lot of fun. And structurally, it's really interesting, which you'll all see if you ever take a look at the module after we're done. Like it almost is like storybook like, and then interspersed with the stats and things you need for the game, and so it has a nice flow to it, at least so far. Really digging it. What else? Yeah, I like this change of pace in the character that you're playing, Jazzy, because it's not the type of character you normally play, and I like where you're going with it. Also, Star for it's one of my personal like favorite things when people jokingly put like open world game like tropes into role playing games. I always think that's so funny. Like it just I don't know. It's always endlessly amusing, and I like how you kind of like worked it into the Saltberg. Like, I know there's a job board somewhere, right? I'm gonna find it. That was just really great. Love the idea. I like how the whole crow scene was handled. I really enjoyed that. Star for guiding the risk roll, Amanda, which is how it's meant to be done according to the rules of the game. So we're gonna do more of that. And Star for your Crocodile Dundee meets Ringo Starr accent, Alex. I'm digging it. It's really good. It's distinctive, I would say. Yeah, and I also Star for Nevin having this like I like how you kind of like I laid down this like sort of like little goal of like finding this person, right, for this king, and you just like immediately pick that up and like work that into your role play and like how you're playing your character, and that's really great. That's what it was all meant to do. So I like all that. It's no coincidence that I made Fergus Ferguson have red hair, or it might even say he has red hair in the module. I don't remember, but I think. In which case, it's a fun coincidence that Fergus Ferguson has that, in addition to Fergus Ferguson being the nemesis of Eliseo. So that's part of my wish. I'm just excited to see where all that goes. Another wish is I'm trying to be like really, really precise in how I run the game in terms of the rules, and I think it'll probably be a couple more sessions where I'm kind of doing it that way. But I do expect us to eventually like the sort of formality of the rules to kind of fall away as we all kind of get into it. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But yeah, this is great great fun.
Before we move to somebody else, I just want to add in, because I didn't know that this started in media res, or it didn't start in media res.
It does not. Yeah.
Trophy. One of my favorite things about Trophy is the combat. It's quick, it is lethal, and it's super super fun. Like, it doesn't drag on like some other combat systems do. So really, starting us off, jumping right in the middle of combat and making it super lethal, that was awesome. Yeah.
I really wish I'd claimed an arm, but that's okay. I wanted to claim an arm. Oh no, there's still time. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have to give a star to Jason and just being like sagacious. You'll never figure it out if you don't pay me, and it'll keep you up at night. I'm like, Nevin doesn't give a shit about this, but God, me as a player is invested in like Nevin's like sessions down the line, just thinking, what in the world does sagacious mean? It's definitely a character choice to just be very annoyed by Cassian's whistling, but then pick up the crow that keeps on saying liar all the time. So you just have this bag that's just into town that just going liar, liar, and it's just like, I'm like, what are you just taking stuff? Like, it's like Basso takes everything that is not pinned down. Eliseo is just like very polite. So it's just like, I'm not intimidating anyone, but I don't know how to talk to people. God, Alex, you threw me through a loop with that accent. I haven't I'm very tempted to like have a conversation with Nevin and you, and just being like, where are you from? I can't place that accent. And sort of star for having the goals, especially giving me the flexibility of deciding whether or not I actually embarrass the king of
Fatma, or King Fatma, yeah.
King Fatmu, which I did do that, but however, because there is another person with red hair, I could blame that person. So two birds, one stone. We're kidnapping Ferguson next session. That's my wish.
I love it. Fantastic. Jazzy?
I mean, echoing everything that's been said, but some other specific stars for like, I really loved how that combat immediately told me who these people are. Like, we have Basso, like, actually, like, kind of being surprised by it and just doing what a normal person would do, getting ready to sleep, being at the fire. Then we had Cassian, like, immediately outside of combat, but like trying to sort of make this plan. Nevin going in with a freaking dagger, which like common sense would be like, maybe don't. But and then like Eliseo, like just, oh, I'm just fucking punching a wolf in the face and throwing myself in front of people. And just by that little scene, I already was like, oh, like I got a first vibe. Like I know what these characters are. And then I think everyone just expanded upon that, like in really cool ways already for the little that we've seen. Um, yeah, star for Amanda. I love how Basso is like so direct and like mildly annoyed with anyone questioning him. Just like, how dareth? I am the smartest person here. Just don't. Um, and sort of on the flip side of that, chaotic, I love how Nevin keeps trying to call people out and then like immediately backs down. It's like, like, what are you doing with the bird? And then like, okay, whatever, I don't care. It's your bird. What does sagacious mean? Okay, fine, I don't care that much. Like, just incredibly funny for Nevin to like, just, I just imagining like that picture of that little cat paw in the snow. Just like that's what commitment feels like to Nevin. Just like, ugh, no, never mind. Which was very funny to me. And Alex, yeah, I have a family member who is a poet and who does like poetry readings, and she puts on like this voice, like performance voice when she does it. And that's immediately what went into my head when you did. Like, that's just his poet voice. It's his poetry performance voice that he uses all the time. Like, that immediately was like, I'm at home here. I know who you are. So that was really fun. Yeah, wishes. I want to see these characters get messy. I want to see the bonds, and I want to see how they grow and break and get stress tested. And yeah, I just haven't played a lot of Gold, so I'm just excited to kind of, interact with the rules, kind of see where it goes, and hunt some monsters.
Fantastic. One more star before we go. Star for Alex for that in the combat, like hanging back around to like do sort of like support, even though it didn't like come to that because the group rolled high enough. I liked it as a sort of tactic, and there's a lot of fights where you can imagine that would be really helpful, especially if it was like an endurance 11 or 12 monster, right? And so that was really great. I just wanted to highlight that. I thought it was really good. Any other stars or wishes?
Just a quick one for the system, I guess, because yeah, it's been mentioned that this is not the type of character that I play. It was not who I like vaguely had in mind I was gonna play. But then we did the character creation. We did it randomly. Alex like pulled random cards for me. And then I just really loved like the combination of messaging and like this very like, strong fightery type character. And I was like, oh, what can I do with that? I was like, yeah, the game has decided this is what I'm gonna try. So I'm very excited to see how long I can, like, what I'm gonna do with this because I don't know.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, that was great fun. We are ending right on time. Look at that. I'm going to wave goodbye to folks watching the video. Goodbye, folks watching the video.